So guys, welcome back. So in this part, we are going to complete everything that we left off from the registration part. So let me arrange this properly. So what we have to do right now is we want to be able to notify the user that the user clicked on the register, and also there is a request that is going on. So the way we can do that, we are going to create a component called loader. I'm going to create a component in components folder. So it's called loader. Now this component is just going to be a simple design. So let me just type down RONFC. I'm just going to export default loader. And I'm going to bring in the box. I think it's only the box I need for now. And I don't need, I also need something from native base, and that is the spinner. So thank God that we installed in native base. So over here, we can just wrap everything with a box. Something is actually wrong. That's because this is coming from the precompiled. I think what's going on? We have the box. I think it's because we didn't actually rename this to be TXS. So this is not like a component, it's just in like a JavaScript file. So that should solve it. Now this box is going to have a flex of 1 and a background of primary. So the flex of 1 means it's going to cover the screen, but you want everything inside of it to be justified to the center, and we also want everything inside of it to be aligned to the center. Then it's going to have a style. Now this style is more like making an absolute field, so we just have to import from React Native. We have to import the style sheets. So we have the style sheet.absolute field object, so that it can cover the whole screen. And inside there, we can just bring down the spinner with a color of theme. So let me just grab the theme quickly. So we have the theme.colors.white. So coming back to our register, we can just import that, but that will be at the bottom part, because we want it to cover every other thing. So I can just bring down that loader. So hopefully that this should import the right parts. Let me check. Yeah, so everything is perfectly fine. You can just let's just go ahead and save this so that you can see what I'm talking about. So it should cover this screen over here. So let me try. So it's still refreshing. So that's one thing I don't usually like about React Native. Sometimes the auto refresh does not reflect immediately. So let's go over to this. So nothing seems to be showing. But something have to show. Okay, we are not importing the right one. So I'm sorry guys for that. So we just have this at /loader. So you can see it over there. So we don't want this to actually be like this. The way we want it to be is if there is actually something going on, like there is a registration that is loading that is going on, then you can return the component called loader. Or else you just set it to null. So that should get rid of this. So it doesn't work except you are actually making a request. So let's go ahead and try to register a new user. So new@gmail.com. You can set the password to be Samuel. and let's hit register. You can see automatically it's going to be making that request, and whenever we are done, you can see automatically stop. So let's do it again, and you can see we have the error over there. So that's how we can actually handle that. And also, whenever we are able to perform a complete authentication, that is a no error authentication, we have to now make use of the use effect. So we want to make use of this use effect from the auth. So let me just go ahead and import that and bring it at the bottom part. What you want to do is we have to check if the auth.isAuthenticated is true. We just have to call onLogin. So onLogin is a function at the top there, which is going to navigate to the login screen automatically whenever we register successfully. So if you can recall, we do have this authenticated that is going to be set to true from our reducer. So let me just register a new user again. So I'm just going to call this one new again at gmail.com. And I'm going to set the password to my name. I'm going to hit register. And once we do that, you can see automatically brings us to this login screen. So guys, finally we are done with everything register. And let's go over to the login action. So the login action here. So the first thing we have to do is to dispatch a type of log, I think log loading, with a payload of null. And then we have to set the data, which is going to take the JSON.stringify these values, the email and the password. And also it's going to make a request with Axios. So I think this is misspelled. We have type. So this Axios is going to have a method of posts, and it's going to have a URL of API URL /API/login. So we are going to actually set up this in our server, and we have to pass that data, and we can set the headers to have a content type application/JSON. Then we can return a response, and also we can catch error if there is any error. So for the response itself, first thing first, we have to clear the errors. So let me just go ahead and I can just quickly grab this over here and just clear everything here and paste that. So we clear the error, and we are going to dispatch a login success. We are going to dispatch a login success, and we are going to add this payload. And also here we are going to dispatch a login fail. So let me bring that inside. And here we are going to dispatch a login fail. So that's how we can actually, an idea of login fail, that's how we can actually handle that. And coming back to our server, we can just come over to this. We can just change this to API/login, and we are going to create a file called login. So we're going to go over to the routes, create a file called login.js, and make sure you acquire that file perfectly. So we can just specify login there. Hopefully that this is correct. So let me just check /login. Yeah. So coming into this login, as usual, we don't even need to waste our time. Let's just grab everything over here and paste that. Module.exports equal to router. Oh, sorry guys for that. Then we have router.post, the request and the response. So let's kind of console.log request.body to actually make sure that we are actually making a request. And coming back to our auth actions, everything is looking correct. And let's go ahead and try something now. sam@gmail.com with Samuel. I'm going to hit login and let's check in our console, and we're already getting those values. So coming back here, all we just have to do right now is to grab that from the request.body. You can grab the email and the password. So we have to check whether this, let's say, login simple validation. We have to check whether the email exists or whether the password exists. And in case we have an error, we are going to return erase.status of 400 with a JSON message of sorry, or let's just say enter all fields. So let's go ahead and undo these errors. So the way we can do that is, let's just allow something to be an error or a mistake. Let's say when we put a password, we assume that it is an error so that we can handle that error. And coming back to our login, so we are going to handle an error immediately. So I'm not going to waste time typing everything down. I'm just going to go over to the register, and we can just grab these 2 lines of code and paste that. And also we can come over to register, and we can copy everything here, and you can come, okay, let me just import this. We can come down to this place and paste that, and here we have to change this to login fail. So if you can recall, the login fail is actually coming from our actions. So let's go ahead and save, and that should show us an error. And lastly, we also have to do this. So let me just, so guys, sorry. Hopefully that should work this time around. And let's save that, and we can import that loader from loader. And let's save that and come over here, and let's put sam@gmail.com. For the password, let's put it down and let's hit on login, and automatically we get that error that we are getting from here that's saying enter all fields. So let's allow this to be in an error format. So at the bottom there, we have to make sure that that user do exist. So validate if user exists. So we can say user.find1 email, and we are going to return that user. You can check if that user exists, or else you have to return res.status with a 400 status code .json with a message of user does not exist. So let's go ahead and put a wrong user. So let me just put something wrong there, and let's hit enter. So we should get, I think over here, should be able to get something. But let's just finish. We can still come back to check this. I think it's because my React Native app is lagging. Then we have to validate the password. So for the password, we have to use bcrypt.js. We have to compare the password with user.password. So this user, okay, yeah, we have to compare it with the user.password, and it's going to give us a callback, and we are going to assign that callback to is match. So in case that matches, so I think I'm making a mistake somewhere. Oh. I think everything is still working fine. We set a password, then we assign this to is match. Okay. Then inside there we have a callback. So sorry guys for that. And then we have to check if this is an error. If it's a false, we have to return res.status of 400 for a JSON message of invalid credentials. Then we can use jwt.sign. We have to reassign that ID to a new token and then return that token. So we can just specify that ID to user.id. Then we have the config.get. As usual, we must get our Amazon secrets. Then we set the expires in 3600, which is going to give us an error or a token if we successfully made that. Then if error, you just have to throw error, or we just have to res.json. Since it's already a 200, once it's let's just go ahead and set the status to 200. Then we have the token, we have the user, we also have the ID to be user.id. Then we have the name to be user.name, and we have the email to be user.email. So that's how we can set everything for user. So one more thing before we leave the login. So this one is, let's assume that the user was able to log in perfectly. The token is going to be stored in our local storage. So we are going to be using this token frequently to make a request whenever the app opens. So, and we are going to be making that request to this same login file or the login route, but we are going to use another path, which is called user. And it's going to get the request and the response. And this time around, of course, it's going to be making use of a middleware, which we are going to define later for, let's say we want to protect our routes so that non-authorized users cannot be able to post. Let's say an admin can only be able to post, or a user that is not logged in cannot be able to post. So we can specify middleware for that. But for now, let's just go ahead and do this. So what we have to do is to, I think, this is likely not going to work now, of course, because we are going to set the actions that's going to load the user. So, but let's go ahead and set this up. So we are going to find by ID, because when we are going to be the token actually is storing with an ID, which is our ID. So this is exactly what is stored in the token, and this ID is the user ID. So whenever we load a user, we have to get from the Amazon user, we are going to get the ID. And we are going to select everything but except the password, and then we are going to return that user to be res.status of 200.json. Then we can just pass that user. So that's how we can just set up this one. So later we are going to talk about this one, but for now let's go ahead and make sure that we are able to log in. So one thing I have to do before we proceed is the ability for the user to be switched to the product list once the user successfully logs in. So that will lead us to going back to this register route component. Let's just grab everything that we put down here and close that. And over here, we can just paste it. Then we checked if everything worked perfectly. Of course, we don't have, we are not using on login because it's actually for the login button. But this time around, let's just go ahead and console.log auth so that we can see the user that actually got logged in. So let me just go ahead and save this, and let me go ahead and log in. And let's log in and check in our console. So in our console, you can see the user is authenticated and the log loading is false. Everything, the token was returned and also the user was returned. So what I simply want to do right now is I want to set this token to our local storage. So the way we can do it is we are going to create a method called setToken, which is going to be an assign function that's going to take the token as a string, and it's going to check if there is a token. If there is any token, we just want to try. We are going to now make use of assign storage. So we didn't actually install this, but let's just go ahead and set this up, then we can install it. So we are going to define the assign storage dot, we have to remove any existing token. So we are going to call it the user token. Then we have to reassign a user token. So I'm just going to set item a user token to the token that will be reassigned. That's if there is any token. But for here, let's just put down the catch and error. Then if everything worked perfectly, of course, you should set, or else we just consider that error to tell us what the error is all about. And let's go ahead and install assign storage. So the assign storage we are going to be using is the one from I think React Native Community Assign Storage. So let me just go ahead and install that. So we can add, it's called at React Native Community /assign storage. Now let's go ahead and import that assign storage from React Native Community Assign Storage. And let's go ahead and save. So whenever we make that request and everything was successful, what I want to do is I want to grab, so let me just allow this to reload. So I want to grab from auth, I'm going to grab the is authenticated and also the token. So let me just get rid of this. Then we can set the token to be the token. So whenever we log in, we set the token. So let's kind of console.log that token. And then if the user is authenticated, which means the user has actually logged in perfectly, then we have to navigate. So I think there is something I have to bring in that I didn't bring in. Let me kind of check something, guys. So we have to navigate. Okay, we already have navigate over here, which is going to, let me just set this to end navigate. So we can just navigate back to the product screen. So we have and navigate to the product screen. So let's go ahead and check. So let's say I'm an existing user and signs in with my credentials, and my credentials are correct. So let me hit enter. So you can see automatically it brings me to this product screen. That's to show me that I'm actually signed in. And when I check here, you can see that token, and that token is actually stored in our Android phone data storage. So that's how we can handle the login and also the register. So thank you guys for watching. Now we have successfully completed the authentication part of this, except for the loading of user, which we will do in the next part before we proceed to the product list and also adding a product. So thank you for watching, and make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. So guys, if you wish to support me, you're gonna see the link in the description. You can buy me a coffee, or you can support me through PayPal. So thank you, and make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button once more, and see you on the next part. Bye bye.